Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Sicario, Day of the Soldado, starring Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin, Isabella Moner, Jeffrey Donovan, Catherine Keener, Manuel Garcia Rolfo, and Matthew Modine, and directed by Stefano Sollima. Now, I have to confess this now. This movie, should I say it's as good as the original? I don't know, I was a little nervous about going into the movie theater to figure out if it's as good as the original, because nothing beats the original. So let's just get right into this. We open the movie in the US-Mexican border in Texas, and they find some people illegally crossing to the US to Mexico or something like that, and a guy, or should I say Mexico to the US, I'm not sure, and the guy runs off and sets off an explosion to kill some officers in the military, and suddenly we get more on in Kansas City in a grocery store and explode the place and kill some people, which that can happen in real life. It's a very scary situation. I love that haunting moment of the film and how it connects to real life. It was just amazing. And G.B.M.H, we pick up with Matt Graver, returned by Josh Brolin, and I like seeing him back interrogating a man who had nothing to do with the attack. I admire how brutal Josh Brolin can get in general. We go on an adventure with Miguel, who's a wannabe Sicario, and in case if you don't know what I mean by that, Sicario means hitman in Spanish. And I like the character because he wants to be a Sicario, which we'll find out at the end, and he was fascinating to understand. Cynthia Fodes, played by Catherine Keener, kind of got on my nerves a little. Like, I thought she was a villain in this thing like she was in these other two movies, one recently and one from last year. But she really got under my fucking skin. In Bogota, Colombia, we catch up with Alejandro, returned by Benicio del Toro, and this time the character is better than here than in Sicario 1. The score is also pretty intense in this movie. He goes loose to kill a man who killed his family named Carlos Reyes. And I love the scene when he says, adios, and shoots someone multiple times like this. Boom, 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 boom. And let's move on. I thought he looked badass in that scene. I really hate the character of Isabel, played by Isabella Moner. She really got on my fucking nerves too, and I also hate how she's the protagonist, or, well, not protagonist, but the MacGuffin here too. It's just driving me nuts. Alejandro picks up Isabel and keeps her around to keep safe. Meanwhile, Matt and Alejandro run into Miguel at a mall when he gets paid to deliver drugs. That was a good way to set up the ending, which I'll talk about at the end of the show, but I do like that scene. Matt and Alejandro get ambushed, and they get separated when Isabel was stupid enough to run, and Alejandro goes his own way to find her, but the action in that scene was great and very, very intense. Alejandro and Isabel go to a man who's deaf and with his wife and newborn baby, and I like how we learn about Alejandro and his family were deaf. So there's some moments I like from Alejandro that I actually liked, that we learn about his past, and that was one of them, and it really surprised me that he has an arc. Meanwhile, the decision of killing off Isabel is being made by the government, and Matt and Cynthia accept it and tell Alejandro, and suddenly he gets moving, and both Alejandro and Isabel get captured by a gang that Miguel is with, and someone almost shoots Alejandro in the head, but gets his head blown off. Not Alejandro, but the other guy. Miguel does shoot him, but in the cheeks. Like right here, to be exact. Not up here. And gets his head blown up, and Miguel does shoot him in the... Oh, wait, I already said that. And I thought he was going to survive that. And Isabel gets captured by the gang. That moment of the film was real life intense. I will give him that. Alejandro gets up and goes after the criminal that shoots him. Meanwhile, Matt shoots the gang that shot Alejandro and took Isabel to her father, and Alejandro shoots Miguel's boss, and we see Alejandro giving Miguel an opportunity to become a Sicario, a hitman for short. And that ending proves that it has the balls to make a fucking part 3, which I like how it ended. It just had the balls to set up for a part 3. Just very ballsy. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.5 out of 10. Not quite as good as the first one, but it was good intense. It was a good intense time at the movies. So don't go to the theater thinking this is going to be a happy movie, because it's not. But I do like this movie quite a bit, and I recommend you see. Well, before I start there, I recommend you watch the first one before you see this one, and I also recommend you see this fucking movie and expect badass things in it. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for Sicario, and until next time, adios.